P wave. So it is essential for us to concentrate on the PP interval and the the QRS complex which has been dropped just before the P. What are the causes? Sinus node dysfunction, SA node conduction disturbances, or sick sinus syndrome are based on intrinsic changes in the sinus node and in the surrounding atrium and extrinsic causes. What are these? The intrinsic and extrinsic causes. We must be aware of this. In the ICU, most of the conduction abnormalities because of the intrinsic properties are because of the aging. Most of our patients are geriatric. So aging fibrotic degeneration of the sinus node and the surrounding atrium is a cause. Then again, the most common is the ischemic causes, which can again cause bradycardias. Infiltrative diseases such as amyloidosis, hematochromatosis, and tumors. Inflammatory diseases like myocarditis and pericarditis are also a common cause for bradyarrhythmias in the ICU. Musculoskeletal sometimes may produce this bradycardias like myotonic dystrophy, Friedreich's ataxia. Collagen diseases, which is lupus erythematosus and scleroderma. These are the intrinsic properties which we should be aware of when we are dealing with our patients with bradyarrhythmias. And what are the extrinsic causes? Again, drugs, which was elaborately spoken by the previous speakers. So we should be aware of the drugs which causes bradycardias in the ICU. Then electrolyte imbalances. Most of the patients again are in suffer from electrolyte disbalance due to various infections and other causes of dyselectrolemias. And most common among them is hyperkalemia. And what are the and then there are endocrine disorders. Again, hypothyroidism can cause bradyarrhythmias. Neuro-mediated conditions, that is vasovagal syncope, carotid sinus syndrome, post-micturition syncope, cough sneeze syncope, Bezol-Jarisch reflex in the inferior wall MI. Then intracranial hypertension and obstructive jaundice again can cause bradycardias in non-cardiac patients in the ICU. How do we recognize? ECG recognition basically deals with the reading of the ECG, careful analyzing each and every alphabet of the ECG, that is the P, Q, R, S, T. So what are we supposed to look in the ECG is the group beating, then the shortening of PP intervals, and pauses which is less than the shortest cycle. If you see in this picture where you can see a ladder diagram which we use in interpretation of some difficult ECGs and should be inculcated in every ECG diagnosis to improve our diagnosis of an ECG. So if you see here, there is a regular formation of a PP in the sinus node, but there are 4 to 3 conductions in the atrium which are present in this ECG. Then the P interval decreases before the blocked P, if you see here. Okay, so this kind of a ECG pattern, once you see that there is a PP interval which decreases before a blocked beat, you should think of a SA block. Then coming on to the next one, type 2 secondary SA block or a Mobitz 2. The ECG again, slow interpretation, careful analysis of the PP interval are required. So what does the ECG says? PP intervals are fixed before and after the pauses because there is no increment in SA conduction time. So it is necessary to see the PP intervals before and after the pauses. The pause itself again is twice the PP interval. If you can see here, it's 840 and the interval between that is the double of the previous block. So this is a type 2 SA block. Here is another example of the similar SA block where you can see there is the doubling of the PP interval, and again you can diagnose by just looking into the PP interval of the ECG. This is another SA block which has been seen in probably a myocardial infarction inferior where there is a PP interval discrepancy. Now coming on to shortly about sick sinus syndrome. It's a condition which abnormalities in the sick sinus automaticity. It's a SA conduction abnormality together with failure of an adequate escape mechanism. It is often associated with AV nodal diseases. Sick sinus syndrome is frequently intermittent and unpredictable and may occur in the absence of any other cardiac disease. For this recognition, heart rate is episodically too much slow. This pattern may be alternating with a rapid heart rate usually atrial fibrillation, or otherwise known as tachybrady syndrome. So basically, we see both the features of tachycardia and the bradycardia in a patient with 6 sinus syndrome. Here is an ECG where we can see that initially there is a tachycardia, and suddenly after the pause, there is a long pause, and again the ECG shows tachycardia. So this is an example of a patient where there is both tachycardia with a pause and again a tachycardia, a picture of a 6 sinus syndrome. How do we manage these patients? Initially, a careful history is a must. It is not basically, as previous speakers spoke, don't treat the ECG, treat the complete patient and the ECG. So correlate with the patient's history and the ECG. So careful history taking should be done. If a 12-lead ECG does not show any typical findings, a 24-hour ECG, and as a previous speaker said, the internal loop recorder or external loop recorder can be taken for a longer duration if the symptoms don't occur frequently. The correction of all possible causes, including discontinuation of a possible offending drug. Here is what the history is important for. So we should always analyze what are the possible causes, and the drug history should be taken completely before going into a next step. If all the steps are ruled out and unsuccessful and the patient is still symptomatic with 6 sinus syndrome or SA blocks, then these patients are indicated for pacemaker. Now coming on to the next is the AV conduction disturbances. In acute MI, the sites of the AV node is important to be identified. Then AV nodal conduction problems are transient in MI and usually do not require permanent pacemaking. If the complete AV nodal block develops, the escape pacemaker is usually dependent on AV junctional rhythm and does not require a pacemaker. But the pacemaker, the permanent pacing is quite rare and is only indicated when there is a symptomatic 2nd degree or 3rd degree AV nodal block which is persistent for more than 2 weeks. So in the initial first 2 weeks the patient should be on a temporary pacemaker for him to allow to the recovery of the AV node vascular. So again, the intracardiac ECG, we use this diagram for diagnosing the various blocks in ECG in an intracardiac electrogram, which is this, shown here. This is the His bundle electrogram, which shows the AV block and the various kinds of 2:1, 3:1, and the mixed types of blocks which have been classified based on this durations of the AH and his HV intervals. Now, I think most of us are very, people know most of the AV blocks, which is commonly seen in India. So ECG recognition, what do we see? We see for the P waves, where do they originate? Is it in the sinus node? Then we go on to the PR interval, whether it is progressively lengthening before a drop beat. QRS, is it narrow or wide, or depending on the presence or absence of bundle branch block. Then the rhythm. You should always concentrate on the rhythm for group beating, which is again gives a clue for your diagnosis. Then the RR intervals, which are always shortened. Here's an example of a AV block, which we can see that there is the P which has been prolonged, and then there is a missed beat. So then the management of this. Then chronic type 1 2nd degree AV block is usually benign in patients without organic heart disease. When an organic heart disease is present, then the prognosis is related to the underlying disease itself. So the management, the underlying disease, meaning that MI, myocardial infarction, should be reperfused, and temporary pacing should be taken, immediately used for the acute condition. And later, if the acute condition settles and still the patient is dependent on the temporary, then the permanent pacing is always thought of. In type 2 morbids AV block, the recognition of the ECG is that the P waves originate in the sinus node and have a regular interval. This is important, they have a regular interval. And the PR intervals are also normal or slightly prolonged and exactly the same length before and after a conducted P wave. So the PR interval is normal and slightly prolonged. Then QRS is narrow when the lesion is within the His bundle and broad when it involves the pathological bundle branch blocks. And the ventricular rhythm is always irregular because of non-conducted beats. And conducted sinus P waves are also conducted to the ventricles. This is an example of a type 2 Mobitz which I just explained, ECG. And the management for this is that usually these patients have chronic fibrotic diseases of the conduction system, which is seen in elderly. Type 2 AV block may also occur in anteroseptal MI, again because of the blood supply. And management of these are associated with the syncope and insertion of, again, a temporary pacemaker, followed by the permanent if the patients have a chronic fibrotic conduction system disturbances. And complete AV block is, or otherwise known as third degree AV block. In this, the P waves originate from the sinus node. Then there is no P and QRS relation which exists. So there is an AV dissociation. And the QRS is narrow if the site of block is in the AV node or His bundle. And there is an escape rhythm which originates in the AV node. The rate, the ventricular rate is less than 50 beats per minute. Rhythm is, there is that the AV dissociation is present. Here you can see that PP interval, and then suddenly there is a drop beats, there is no QRS, and then again followed by QRS. If you also can see that there is an alternating RBBB, then which shifts into LBB. So this is again a common third degree AV block. This is again the blown up picture of the alternating bundle branch block which may occur. Coming on to the management of these conditions, if it is a broad QRS complex, complete AV block, then it requires an insertion of a pacemaker. If it is a narrow QRS, then there is no immediate treatment unless and until the patient is symptomatic. And if it is an anteroseptal MI with complete AV block, then temporary pacing with reperfusion is the line of management. Then we have something called paroxysmal AV block, which can be detected by critical lengthening of PP interval followed by a complete AV block. So if you see a PP interval which slowly rises and then there is a prolongation of the pause, and again there is a QRS complex followed by, there is intermittent block and then followed by a sinus rhythm which is in the same strip. You can see that the ECG starts with the sinus tachycardia, then there's a pause, then kind of a small PP interval increase, then the AV block, then again it gets back to its sinus rhythm. So this is a paroxysmal AV block. What are the features? It occurs in critical lengthening of the PP intervals. Location is sub-AV node. Mechanism is local phase 4 block in the sub-AV node conduction system. It is dangerous because of the unreliable escape mechanisms. Diagnosis is often missed because of its paroxysmal character against a background of absent AV disturbances, because this short duration of pauses are often missed during the monitoring. So in summary, the first indication of worsening in AV conduction is a prolonged PR interval with all P waves conducted. Second degree AV block has a drop P wave and is divided into type 1, 2, and second degree AV block 2:1 conduction 2. In the third degree AV block is classified according to the QRS width, whether it may be narrow or broad, a feature that helps in determining the management. Immediate pacemaker insertion is usually indicated in complete third degree AV block with a broad QRS complex, and in paroxysmal AV block because of its conduction disturbances which may not be noticed. So what are the take-home messages for SA conduction abnormalities is, record the 12-lead ECG. If hypotension, dizziness, pre-syncope are absent, then no immediate treatment is required. Evaluate the ECG carefully for MI and mechanisms. Look in for the mechanisms of bradycardia, look for the P wave regularity, abrupt pauses or group beating, then abrupt pauses or group beating in the ventricular rhythm, then the QRS axis and the width for coexisting bundle branch block. In case of sinus bradycardia, there is no treatment unless hypotension is present. You can give atropine of 0.04 milligram per kg of body weight if required. In case of a SA block or a sinus arrest, again there is no treatment unless the patient is hypotension. and or there is a rhythm which is of digitalis induced, and then you can stop the offending drug. If the diagnosis of sixth sinus syndrome is done, treatment depends on the symptoms, whether there is dizziness, presyncope, congestive heart failure. Depending on that, you go ahead with permanent pacemaking. In case of an acute infero-posterior MI with SA block, coronary perfusion is indicated. For AV conduction abnormalities, again record the 12-lead ECG, determine by non-invasive method the site of AV block by reading the ECG, and if it is an acute inferior wall MI, temporary pacemaker or a dual pacemaker in case of a pump failure. The need for permanent pacing is quite rare, indicated only when AV node block is present and persists for more than 2 weeks after MI. So type 2 morbids is determined by likely site of AV node by measuring the PR interval, the effect of exercise, carotid sinus pressure, and atropine on the AV conduction. A temporary pacemaker is required when the type 2 block is associated with syncope. 2 to 1 AV block, a temporary pacemaker is enough. Complete AV block, then the insertion of pacemaker is usually required when associated with broad QRS complex. Then there is no treatment for necessary when that QRS is normal because it is above the node. I think with this, I'll conclude my.
Thank you, Dr. Harun Rashid. That was a very good presentation. So I'll just tell you a small rule of the thumb. In a ICU, when a patient is having bradycardia, when the QRS is narrow, then the etiology is above the AV node. Either it is a sinus bradycardia, it is a suprahazian AV block. Then look at the cause for that bradycardia. The cause is more important than the bradycardia itself. Either it is an MI or a drug toxicity or a sinus bradycardia or a systemic disease. You treat the cause. The rhythm is not the problem there. But anything below the His bundle, when the QRS is wide, the patient is having bradycardia. Tackle the rhythm first, then go to the cause, because the rhythm can degenerate and become unstable quite early. So this, I think, is a crisp point that you all have to remember.
Definitely.
So thank you again, Dr. Harun Rashid.
Thank you.
I now request Dr. Ram Prakash to felicitate our speaker, Dr. Mohammed Harun Rashid. I request Dr. Mohammed Harun Rashid to hand over the certificates to the chairpersons.